Welcome to the Big Picture Manatee. I'm Sherry Corrier, and we're here to talk about a recent petition filed by former commissioner and the Bradenton Times publisher, Joe McClash. And that petition is a formal administrative hearing request with the state of Florida, and it has to do with the wetlands issue and the fact that the county moved forward back on October 5th with a comprehensive plan text amendment for wetlands protection. You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was pretty outraged by it. I think the community was very surprised and upset about it. And so I just want to say first to thank you to Commissioner McClash for filing this because he took on a lot to take this step. And I've read his administrative points. And what he says is he focuses on, there's going to be a big loss of habitat. There's going to be a loss of filtration for our waterways and even flood control. And I guess what the county has said will balance all of that are these engineering solutions. And I think that's my biggest problem with this is that I don't know what engineering solutions are. I know engineers can do great things with water, civil engineers, but that's not a defined term. There are no, there's no guidance in the language what the county adopted, and so I think that's pretty much some of his points that he makes. Reggie, what do you think? I mean, what do you think about the habitat?
Well, yeah, that's one of my concerns, and I think I'm living that right now, where I am out here as development is taking place for the Parish Community Park. And I'm witnessing, in the middle of the morning, early mornings or late evening, where I see wildlife crossing the road and obviously relocating. So what will take place out there along the wetlands and what habitat will be impacted and how is that going to take place and what does that look like? And one of the other points that former Commissioner McClash, brought out is, what about the public and the health and the safety of the public based on these steps taking place? So I'm concerned about it. More importantly, what detriments and welfare will come forward. So we're all that's what we're here to discuss at this point now.
Yeah, and I know that recently, based on this filing by Commissioner McClash, the county actually went to the board, the county attorney's office, to seek permission to get an outside firm to help represent us. So we're going to be spending more money on representation. They got Gray Robinson, who is a law firm that, in Tallahassee, basically based there, that a lot of folks have used, and most recently Commissioner Baugh used that same law firm for the ethics violation. So now not only are we going to be back through the whole wetlands issue again, but more expense in order to determine these things that you guys are pointing out, and especially, that public benefit.
I am reminded when Lockwood Ridge Road was plugged through, and I don't know if this resonates with you guys, but because I was driving that road 10 years ago or 15, whenever it went through, I would see dead turtles or injured turtles on the road almost every day. And I remember calling Doug Means, who used to work for the county, and saying, there's another one, a big tortoise. And so when they do development like that, or a park like Reggie was talking about, they're supposed to provide for wildlife crossings and that habitat area where, the wildlife that is disrupted has a place to go. But when you remove the buffers from the wetlands or reduce them, there are even fewer places to go. The other thing I want to ask you about, Reggie, maybe, I don't know if you know about this, but did you hear, do you remember when there was a lawsuit filed on this exact topic on reducing wetland buffers? And I think it was filed by Carlos Baruf against the county. And what I remember is that the county won because there was no way to prove that he wasn't able to use his land as it was intended by providing these buffers. Do you guys recall that?
So I do recall that. I wasn't really familiar with the outcome, but I knew that it was, a court proceeding, and I knew that it was a battle going on between the county and Mr. Baruch. And I'm clear, and I'm sure the public needs to be clear that this is where we are again. This is something that is going to, bring taxpayers' dollars to the forefront. Playing for, legal woes is what I'm calling it. The outcome of that particular one, you're saying, Misty, that Mr. Baruch lost and the county was able to go in the direction they wanted to go in?
That's what I recall, without reliving all the details, but I guess this is just another way to skin the cat, if you will.
Right, and obviously this, I mean, you're talking about water, you're talking about, real estate, prime real estate. So dollars are there. And that's what I think the bottom line is. And me, I'm thinking about the wildlife and how this will, the impact, the habitat. And sometimes, unfortunately, people look the other way when you see a dead tortoise or when you run off the road because a deer is crossing the road, but they're just looking for safety and for opportunity to live without interruption. And here's what former Commissioner McClash is saying, as far as the loss of habitat, are we going to pay attention to this? And how are we going to look at this? The public needs to know, the public needs to be aware of all of these issues that are being brought forward.
Well, along with that, with him and what he's done is there was over 5 hours at a regular meeting for this public hearing of public testimony and experts that brought forth all the types of impacts that these changes would make. And I think the public could read a lot about that, and they could have heard it if they tuned in that day. But there's been a tremendous amount of interest in this topic, and it was really not, it didn't appear that there was given the type of thought about those public comments and the expert comments that were brought in. And so I think as this petition is filed, everybody needs to know out there that the petition has to be based on facts and competent, substantial evidence, and that county commissioners can be deposed, and most likely they will be deposed, in order to talk about where their competent and substantial evidence for why they had a particular position was there, as well as experts on the petitioner's side, meaning people that have worked within wetlands all over. Because, I mean, we know that the state standards for all 67 counties weren't supposed to just be intended to be minimums. I mean, across the state, different communities like ours have a coastal barrier, but in the middle of the state, they have other issues. And so really one size was never meant to fit all.
So well said. I agree. Yeah, 67 counties. It was never intended that the coastal communities would just adhere to the minimum state buffers. That was never intended. In fact, the research I've done has shown at least all the coastal communities I looked at have greater buffers than the minimums because of the responsibility that they have. And, going back to what you said about competent and substantial evidence, Sherry, I don't know if you guys have had time to read McClash's statement, but I hope for the sake of the county that there's something more in there that's competent and substantial, because what's stated is that Commissioner Ballard was worried about being made fun of for the shoes she wore, and Commissioner Satcher was talking about Bible references, and none of that is going to be deemed competent and substantial evidence in the eyes of the court. But those experts who gave testimony, those scientists, and we saw Rob Brown, who used to work for the county as a scientist, that is competent and substantial evidence.
Yeah, so I unfortunate about the commissioners and some of their comments, I really kind of stay on a certain line with that. But just taking the comments from Rob Brown and thinking about one former Commissioner McClash statements as far as engineering solutions. I mean, what potential engineering solutions could possibly come up out of this when you have this level of concern? I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, it's really, it's a huge issue that was rushed through. it was, it seemed to be specifically placed in a particular time of the year and in a particular way so that it would potentially go without anybody noticing. Now there's going to be a long drawn out process, which could have been avoided if there had been given more time for this, as is regularly supposed to happen at the public level. So people like Rob Brown and Dr. Abby and others that came and spoke again, citizens that took the whole day off and came in from various parts of the county, they'll all be involved in this. And so there's a lot of concern about what could have been done in a regular proceeding.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. So I hope that this is something that the community and the county commissioners and everyone involved learns and does better. That's what I hope, that the conclusion we reach is the right one for the community. And I think it's clearly that we don't need to be reducing our buffers. I've talked to many of these scientists, and you know what they tell me? The buffers that we have in place right now are the bare minimum needed to keep this county going forward. They're not at all excessive. In fact, we'd be doing better off if we had bigger buffers. And with the way the climate is changing and sea level rise is affecting Florida, we're really putting ourselves in a dangerous position.
So I guess my next point would be, the process of the administrative hearing, as far as, from what I understand, the next step is, go through a discovery period and identify, a recommendation to the governor or the cabinet. I think the public should be aware, about the process and the discovery period as far as potential information that come forward, so it can inform the public, and maybe we'll come back around and engage them on some of this information so we can assure that they have the information as well as the next steps of what could be going on.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people reach out to us about this topic, not only when it was first really brought forth back in August, and then at the dates of the hearing. But you're right, Reggie, that discovery's happening. We know the hearing's going to be the week of February the 5th. At least that's the way it stands right now. Our job to inform the public and educate the public about information is to make sure they know what the dates are and what the next steps are. And then when that judge does do that final recommendation or recommended order, like you mentioned, then it'll go to the governor and the cabinet. So we're watching all that. I know we're going to be monitoring this situation some more, and we'll be back with more updates for that. So we just want to thank everybody for watching today. And remember, our mission is to provide that space, nonpartisan space. We want to listen. We're learning, we're educating, we're engaging everyone in the Manatee County about issues that Manatee County cares about.
Yeah, thank you. And don't forget, you guys, you can follow us on YouTube. You can find us there at The Big Picture Manatee. Please give us a like and follow us so that you'll always be notified of these new broadcasts.
Yeah, the same thing on Facebook, The Big Picture Manatee, and our website, thebigpicturemanatee.com. We want you all to be engaged so we can inform you. So we welcome you.
Great. Thank you. See everybody next time.
So long.
Bye.
Bye-bye.